My name is Kenneth James Krayeske, and I am an attorney at BBB Attorneys in West Hartford and Stratford. The practice of law is crucial to the world today because lawyers stand as the bulwark against the encroachment of state and corporate power. You have the ability to move mountains with a pen and a piece of paper. You can change people's lives. When you have something terrible happen to you, who do you call? You call a lawyer, and you want to call somebody like me. You want somebody like me in your corner. There is an extraordinary imbalance of power between little people like me, like you, like your neighbors, and the giant corporations that are running our planet into the ground. The federal court system and the state court system are really the only places of redress and that power. I'm just a guy. I went to law school. They gave me a degree, I passed a test, and now I have this power. It's astonishing. And while it exists, we must exercise it to its fullest. I went to Holy Cross High School in Waterbury, Connecticut. I graduated in 1990, and I immediately enrolled in Syracuse University and studied magazine journalism. I went to work for what's called the Hartford Advocate. It no longer exists, but it was of the alt-weekly Village Voice kind of genre of newspaper, and that was the greatest job in the world. I got paid to write. I got paid to meet people. I got paid to watch high school sports. I got paid to learn things every day, and it was so cool.
To be a good journalist, you need to be curious and you need to care about the truth. And I think those are both things that Ken cares about.
I just loved it. I had ink in my veins. You know, they call them ink-stained wretches is what I think Mencken would say. If you can work at a daily newspaper, you can do anything. Like the Daily Miracle, working at a newspaper and watching printing presses roll, it's gotta be one of the greatest thrills of my life.
He would reach beyond just the local area to get interesting interviews. He connected with the drug czar at the time, I remember at one point, and we got a call back from the offices in Washington complaining about him because he was asking, questions that were too tough. And so he was sort of in that role. He was a real go-getter.
After I left the Advocate, what I did was I started a high school newspaper called Echoes from the Streets. Echoes from the Street was a newspaper run for and by high school students. It was an out-of-school, after-school project. What we did was we tried to conform to the mandates of Supreme Court law on student speech. I got money from the Federal Department of Labor, from the State Department of Labor, from the State Department of Children and Families. The Hartford Courant printed us for free. Northland Investment gave us a newsroom in downtown Hartford in the Civic Center. And every day for 3.5 years, I had a newsroom of 25 high school kids. And they came to our newsroom and they wrote about what was central to their lives.
It means a lot to me because it's like, I feel famous because now everybody knows, how my part of my side is, like my life.
The paper will be published 6 times a year. The next issue is due out in August.
It was the most amazing thing I've done as a journalist because we put the tools of media in the hands of young people. And I will tell you that people in power do not like it when you give a 16-year-old kid a camera and he comes back 2 hours later with a picture of a gun. It was really the greatest thing I did as a journalist. I had a column in a local newspaper called the Hartford News, and this column ran for like 10, 12 years. I started in 2004, and I finished it in like 2015 or 16.
Here's a three from Stiles, and he knocks it down.
The Hartford News let me cover anything and everything. They let me cover whatever I want. And I've long been interested in covering sports. And, the business of college sports is one that's really important. So I'm sitting on the floor of the Hartford Civic Center before a University of South Florida game, and I hear Tim Tollikin, the sports information officer for UConn, behind me. I'm screwing my lens into my camera and getting myself ready, and I hear him, say to somebody from the University of South Florida, can you believe the Ohio State University is canceling all travel for non-essential basketball personnel? And I let that sit with me for the rest of the game. So I went into the press conference and I raised my hand and Calhoun called on me, and he knows I like to spar. He knew me. And so I just threw high heat at him. And I said, you know, Coach, you're the highest paid employee in the state. And before I could finish, he's issued the famous not a dime back retort. Coach, considering that you're the highest paid state employee and there's a $2 billion budget deficit,
yep.
Do you think that...
Not a dime back.
Not a dime back.
Not a dime back. I'd like to be retired someday.
Ken Krayeske is a legend. The guy stood up there and he stood tall to authority. Now, I love Jim Calhoun. I love the UConn Huskies, but I thought it was a really interesting concept where you have this press person not just lauding praise on someone, but really challenging authority.
You're not really that stupid, are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, really
My best advice to you?
Yeah.
Shut up.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Very polite. I was sitting in a movie theater that afternoon with my wife after that game, and we got a call, and then my phone started blowing up, and I'm like, oh man, that went national, didn't it?
The point Ken was trying to make there was that perhaps we should all make a sacrifice to give back at a time of need. And I think that comes from Ken's innate interest in serving others. He's really looking at the greater good.
It's created conversation in the United States about the injustice that Upton Sinclair was writing about, the injustice of college sports and blood and oil back in 1927. So for me, I feel that I helped move the conversation along.
Ken, it's Ralph Nader, just wishing you a Happy New Year, you and the family, and many more. I hope you have much more success with every succeeding year.
After I worked at Echoes, I went to work for Ralph Nader for president in 2004. Down in Washington, D.C., I was his national youth coordinator. And everybody on the campaign who had a position of authority was either a lawyer or had a Juris Doctor or was studying to be a lawyer. When I first considered going to law school, I was thinking about mass tort environmental law, like sort of Aaron Brockovich style, Pacific Gas and Electric. I really liked the idea of using the law as a means to help protect the planet. I wanted to become a lawyer because I saw it as a path to social change. Litigation is an extraordinarily difficult science and art. Sometimes I feel like litigation is playing a game of chess and you don't know how all the pieces move.
I think racial inequality, economic inequality, things like that are among his top concerns, but I also think he just wants to go to bat for the little guy.
January 6, 2021, I was attending the inauguration of our elected officials, and I was trying to get them to declare racism a public health crisis in the state of Connecticut. And while there were some other protesters there, and there was a white woman who decided that my life didn't matter. She stated Black Lives Don't Matter, and she spit in my face. And after that video went viral, thanks to Channel 8 News, I reached out to some fellow activists trying to seek some assistance, some legal assistance, and someone recommended Ken. Ken was extremely poised. He was patient. He was empathetic. He was definitely confident. He possessed an energy about him that let everyone know in the room that he wasn't gonna take any junk from anyone.
People don't deserve to suffer at the hands of other people. We can look at the record of history and see it as a chronicle of man's inhumanity to man. If we understand that man is inhumane to other man, and we know that we shouldn't be, we have a duty to stop it. In Connecticut, I don't believe that prisons serve a rehabilitative function. Prisons are a way to warehouse people that we don't want in society. Prisoners will go months without being seen. When they get seen, they confront a medical staff that disbelieves them. And then the only time they get medical care is when they get sent to a hospital because they are in a crisis situation. Sometimes that crisis situation means they're dead.
Ken is the only lawyer I know who truly believes in the concept of justice for everyone.
Ken is the people's attorney. He is definitely the one that marginalized and oppressed communities who have faced some of the most minor of transgressions to assaults, whether it be from civilians on the street or it happened in prisons. He is the person that you go to when you are seeking justice. That is who Ken is.
The old scale of Lady Justice being blind and both sides of the scale being equal before the law is a great concept, but it doesn't always play out that way. And Ken has dedicated his career and his work as a lawyer to making sure that Lady Justice is blind.
The hepatitis C case is, I think, the most impact that I've ever had as a lawyer. We cured 1,000 people of a fatal disease. Basically, in 2013, the Food and Drug Administration approved a new class of drugs called direct-acting antivirals that cure hepatitis C. They resolve the viral load of hepatitis C in the bloodstream. It was too expensive for the prison systems to provide to prisoners, and it was a ripe cause of action, and we found a plaintiff, and we sued, and we forced them to spend $40 million to cure 1,000 people of hepatitis C. And in the process of doing that, we forced the state to close down the Supermax prison facility because they couldn't afford to do both, keep the Supermax and cure people of hep C.
He has this passion and determination and energy like I've never seen. And he uses that to his advantage because he cares more about the issue and the person he's representing than the other side. For Ken, it's personal.
I started getting calls every day from people who were incarcerated who had medical problems. I still get them. I got 2 yesterday. The pattern is clear. There's a pattern of neglect, and what we're doing is we're just saying as a society, we don't care about you and we're throwing you away. And I refuse to accept that because the people who are in prison, maybe they've done bad things, maybe they haven't, but they have not sacrificed their right to dignity. I believe deeply in human rights, and I believe that medical care is a fundamental human right. And my thought has been, if we can lift the lowest rung of the ladder, if we can provide medical care for people in prison, then we can lift the entire ladder and get medical care for everybody. We've had some success at litigating against the state. Tiana LeBoy gave birth in a prison toilet, and we got her $250,000 plus. Wayne World died of a stage 4 cutaneous T-cell lymphoma of an aggressive subtype, and we got his family $1.3 million. Karan Neely died of lupus, and we got his family $1.65 million. I'm humbled by it. I know there's so much more to be done. I'm proud what we've accomplished, but I think it's just a drop in the bucket. I joined this firm because I agree with Bowman's theory that solo practitioners can't make it alone. I needed to join a team, and I really liked the team that Billings and Bowman had put together.
I think Ken's journalistic career gives him the footing and the strong foundation to take on these large, complex, and interesting litigation matters in a way that is unique and without equal in the state of Connecticut or nationally. For much of his career, Ken has been a solo practitioner, taking on these large companies and entities on his own. What Ken has realized is that he can do some great work, but with the resources of our firm.
What BBB allows me to do is to face down the cruel, heartless capitalism of Wall Street that controls insurance companies and go eye to eye with them and fight defense counsel
we have Ken Krayeske, who has historically been known as David in this David versus Goliath battle. But now David has an army.
We're able to fight them harder and longer and get better results for clients.
We have added to our roster a champion of justice, someone who is focused on helping others, holding large companies and persons accountable for their actions, and helping to stop the wrongs that occur on an everyday basis.
What I bring to this firm is leadership, rebelliousness, combined with extraordinary competence.
We're in a place and time where our rights are being stripped of us. We're in a place and time where books are being banned. We're in a place and time where folks who look like me are not getting equal and fair treatment. And so it is very important that there are attorneys out there that understand how important it is that we have someone represent us and speak for us and fight and walk with us in the throughout the legal process.
My clients only call me when they're having the worst day of their lives. And how do you recover from the worst day of your lives? You want a lawyer who's going to fight against the cold, cruel, heartless capitalism of Wall Street that dominates torts. And at BBB, we're able to fight against that and get good results for broken people. And I want to stand by people who have been harmed by products that should have never made it to market. I want to stand by people who have been harmed and hurt by state actors or by municipal actors who have overstepped their bounds. At BBB, I want to be there for people who need someone in their darkest hour.
Somebody like Ken Krayeske has the ability to create long and lasting change. The justice system can appear like a desert, and then you have someone like Ken that comes along who offers water, he offers shade, he offers comfort, and it's those exact things that you need to be able to get up from your crawling position and walk.
History has shown us that time and time again, a single person can make change in this world.
I think a lot about the story of the charter that was hidden in the Charter Oak in Connecticut. And when the English agents were on their way to seize the charter from the colonists were rallying, and Mr. Wadsworth stood up and said, "I have been through far too much and faced death too many times to remain silent in the face of injustice."
Through his cases and the work that he has done, Ken Krayeske has made the world and our system of justice a better place. And I'm excited to see what he has in store in the future.
I'm dogged, determined, and I'm not afraid. I have been through far too much to remain silent in the face of injustice, and I'm going to continue to do that because I feel like what I do helps people. And if our charge as human beings is to help eliminate suffering, then what else am I supposed to do?